This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap. All right, folks, it's take two on the 2026 F1 season. The Formula One is finally back. We have undergone our little hiatus caused by the scheduling conflicts that have are now in the past. We now can resume, and we have a whole lot of new rules and a reset and all sorts of good stuff to talk about. So if you have found our show, welcome along. You have found the Outlap F1 podcast. This is season 8. This will be episode number 6. This is I'm sorry, 7. This is lucky 7. This is the 26 Miami GP preview show. You've got Andy. I'm along with Cody. As always, we are back. I'm still trying to remember how all little buttons work around here, obviously, but that's okay. Cody, my man, I've not seen you in a bit. How's it hanging?
It's going pretty well. It's been so long since we did this. My beard grew out. I shaved it off, and it's already starting to go back. It's been a minute.
I didn't even notice that. So hey, there you go.
But yeah, it's going great. I am very happy to get a little bit of Formula One in the sea of emptiness here, because now after this race, we're going to be off again for 3 more weeks. And by then I'm going to be on the other side of the planet. So yeah, you guys are just going to get 2 episodes of me here, and then I'm on my summer break.
All right. Well, we'll take advantage of you while we got you. So yeah. If you have found our show, we are glad you are here. Welcome along. You can find us on X, on Instagram, Discord, sometimes on Reddit, and of course here on YouTube at Outlap. If F1 Podcast is the handle for all of those great places. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on YouTube, you can do a solid, click the like and the subscribe button. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, a 5-star review will help that algorithm out a little bit. What do they always say? Like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to leave us a comment on stuff you like, stuff you think we could do a little bit better. That's all cool. You can email the show, outlapf1@gmail.com. We'll get your thoughts to us. Thank you so much to Outlap F1 Nation. And we have yet another new member of the hallowed Outlap F1 Nation who have bought us some coffee. So thank you so much to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, Jonathan Scott, Rachel Fleming, and now I'm pretty sure this is Dave Doherty has joined the illustrious Hall of Fame in the Outlap F1 podcast universe. If you would like to buy us some caffeine, and Lord knows sometimes we need it with Formula One, you can go to our link. It's in our show notes. It's buymeacoffee.com/outlapf1. We would be eternally grateful if you'd like to do that. Do you have to do that? No, of course not. But I would tell you that all of that would go back into reinvesting into the show, paying for subscription fees for recording platforms and equipment and all that other good kind of stuff. All right. Well, sometimes when you have a big break in the F1 world, nothing really happens. That was not the case with this break. Let's put it that way. We had some big news actually break over the course of the break, and we had a whole new rule refinement come through as well. But the big off-track story, Max Verstappen, and this is one, I did not see this coming. I read a lot of stuff. I read a lot of blogs. I read a lot of fan McLaren stuff. Not any of them had this story in the way that it played out. But Max Verstappen's race engineer, Gianpiero Lambiase, GP, as he's more commonly known, will leave Red Bull at the end of his contract, and he will join McLaren in 2028. When he does leave, he will take on the role of chief racing officer with a view of freeing up some of the duties currently being managed by team principal Andrea Stella. He is set as of right now to see out the remainder of his Red Bull Racing contract that runs through the end of 2027. I guess we kind of knew he was thinking about a move. I certainly didn't think he was coming to McLaren, but Cody, how do you see this one? This one was a shocker.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a shock that he was going to McLaren. I thought more than anything he was going to be maybe leaving the sport or taking kind of more of a back office type role, because it sounded like he had some things going on in his personal life away from the track that might take up his time. And Yeah, so this kind of came out of nowhere, but I think it's really good for him. Of course, I'm kind of heartbroken over the fact that he's leaving because Max and GP have been kind of an iconic duo and have had lots of success together. GP's been his race engineer pretty much the entire time he's been at Red Bull. So it really sucks to see him go, but from what I can see, it was too good an opportunity to pass up. He's getting a pretty important administrative role here. He's probably getting some nice bucks to go with it.
Yeah, no, McLaren backed up the Brinks truck is from what I've read.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely a great opportunity for him. It sounds like everyone, or well, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but at least Max is on his side for having taken this position. Also agrees that it's too good an opportunity to pass up. So yes, this iconic duo is going to be breaking up, but I think GP will have much success in his new role at McLaren.
Yeah, and I mean, then the way that the F1 world kind of reacted to this was to try to put three different things together that don't have anything to do with each other. All of a sudden, Andrea Stella was not only leaving, but then joining Ferrari, even though Fred Vasseur is currently there. And last time I checked, I think Ferrari was having a pretty good year. So none of that is happening. McLaren have come out and basically said Andrea Stella is their guy. The issue is that he's been doing basically the work of like two people since he's assumed that position. And what they want to do is they want to take, I think, some of the race day strategy stuff where GP, I think, is where he thrives. And he can make those calls because we've seen McLaren have, like, they are fine making plans for race day, but when a race goes sideways, they tend to like freeze up and it gets weird. And I'll look at Qatar last year. If there wasn't a perfect example of that, I can't give it to you any better than that. But yeah, I think that this is what GP will bring: more race day management, able to make a call in real time. They will give him that power, and he'll be kind of learning also probably how to be a team principal. I'm wondering if he'll do some of the media. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a while, and before McLaren sees him, 2020 may negotiate some part of a leave, but I can't imagine that he will see out the whole remainder of that Red Bull contract, would be my guess, because I don't think Red Bull have any incentive, unless McLaren want to pay them to do so, to let him go early. All right. Well, we had talked way back in the Wayback Machine about all of the changes happening at Audi. We knew Jonathan Wheatley had left the team 2 races in to his team principal role. And Audi have decided to promote a familiar name to F1 circles. Alan McNish will report under Mattia Binotto, kind of in the same kind of role like GP is going to assume for McLaren, be kind of a racing director. That, however, will start immediately. He will head up trackside operations from the Miami GP onwards, and they're promoting from within, moving McNish into this newly created role, reporting to CEO and team principal Mattia Binotto. I remember hearing Alan McNish, who was one of the BBC commentators, always come off to me as very smart. He's been with Audi in the sports car world for a long time. He's been a team principal there, and so he obviously knows how to run a program. But I think this is a good move, bringing him up. Cody, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think I got to agree with you. I don't know too much about him personally, other than that he is, an experienced racer. I might be wrong on this, but did he drive in World Endurance Championship at all?
That's where he team principled. I think he used to drive F1 at some point. I just remember he has a very distinct accent when he was on the broadcast. Like, you always knew when he would talk because he's got that Scottish accent that just kind of sticks out on the broadcast. But the stuff he said, I always was very impressed with him. So,
well, it's good that they're promoting within then. If he's well versed with Audi and has been racing with them, it's good that they're giving him this position. It's still weird to me that they're kind of turning over everything so much at Audi as they're just becoming like officially in the sport, but hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I mean, the Wheatley one was as much of a shocker move as anything. I don't think anybody, including people in Audi circles, I think saw that one coming. He has not yet been announced in any sort of capacity. The assumption is he's going to Aston Martin. That's been the assumption, but there has not been any official announcement at least over the course of this break. So those are kind of the two big off-track stories that have been kind of percolating around. The other one has been, we've had not one, but 2 rule change summits that, we had one with all the engineers they met, and that was really more a meeting about the meeting where not a whole lot things got discussed, but nothing really got agreed to. And then we had kind of the real one. And as of about a week ago, the FIA issued and FOM issued and F1 issued and everybody what is going to be changed moving forward with these regulations. Obviously, we had the scary Behrman Colapinto incident in Japan that left Ollie Behrman limping, getting out of the car. We've had comments from drivers like Lando Norris saying, that move on Lewis Hamilton? Well, I didn't have a choice. The car just did it, and I had to kind of just drive around him. I didn't want to overtake him because I knew he was going to overtake me back, and that's exactly what happened. So we've had all these issues. We've had this stupid thing called super clipping that no fan, I have yet to find a fan out there that is a fan of that. So we've got this engine, we've got a battery. And what they've kind of done is they've kind of taken it from both sides of your electrical equation. So the first big thing that came out was qualifying performance. They want to get qualifying to at least be drivers being able to push to the limits as much as the car will allow them. That's the goal. So the first thing they did was they adjusted the energy management parameters. This is something they already kind of did, but they took it another step, including a reduction in the maximum permitted charge from 8 millijoules to 7 millijoules, aimed at reducing some of the excessive harvesting and more flat-out driving. That's one side of the equation. The other thing that they did was they increased what the battery can now charge over the course of a qualifying lap. Previously, it was 250 kilowatts. Now it's 350 kilowatts. And then what they also said was that we're going to not have these alternative energy limits where there's less being able to be put into the battery. Now that gets increased from 8 to 12 races. So there's more circuits that are eligible for this updated rule set. You can kind of think of it, the way I was kind of thinking about it was if you had water, and your cup of water represents your electrical charge, and you have like a soda pop can, and you're trying to pour the water in, that's kind of how they would charge. What they did from the 250 to 350 is basically opening the valve and letting it pour out more so you can get to it. The other thing they did was they decreased the size of the cup. So if you can get the cup to fill faster, you don't have this problem of the driver slowing down. So they took it from both sides of the equation, with the intent being you're not going to see as much super clipping. What you will see, however, because it's just physics has to physics, there will be a reduction in the lap time. You're not going to see as quick a lap time. They estimate, from everything that I've read, 0.5 to 0.8 of a second. They said if there was talk of going down even to 6 megajoules, but they thought if they did that, now you were coming over from 0.8 of a second to maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and nobody necessarily wanted to do that. So this is kind of the Band-Aid. This is what we're going to kind of live with for qualifying. The other thing they did is they kind of did some of this even in the race. So in the races, the maximum power available through the boost, this is specifically to address the Behrman Colapinto incident, is now capped at 150 kilowatts. So when you push the mushroom button, the mushroom is no longer as big. It's a little mushroom. It still gives you a boost. You're still going to get something through the corner, but it's not going to be as much as it was, and it shouldn't be as glaring of a closing speed as what you saw before. And then the other thing they did was they did MGUK deployment will be maintained at the 350 kilowatt in the key acceleration zones from corner exit to braking point, including those overtaking zones. But when they're on the straight, it'll go back to the 250. So a lot of software mapping that I think they were going to have to do. And because of all of this, because now we're coming back with a rules reset, updated cars, a sprint weekend to boot, FP1 for Miami, they get an extra half an hour to figure all of this out. So FP1 may actually be appointment television because it's basically like hitting the reset button and let's see who comes out and who can figure all this stuff out. But it feels like, to me, a Band-Aid. There's still clearly going to be some issues, but Cody, what's your thought on what they've tried to address here?
It is definitely a Band-Aid, but I'm happy that they're addressing it now instead of trying to see out the rest of the season with things as they are and then trying to put the Band-Aid on for next year. We've already seen a lot of critiques about how the season is going from fans, from drivers, both on the performance side and now the safety side after that Behrman accident. So I'm happy with that they're trying to do some stuff now. You pretty much described it pretty perfectly well. They are allowed to recharge more quickly, and the total amount that they can recharge over lap is less. So they should get to that allotted maximum permitted recharge more quickly and with less drastic measures. So you shouldn't see as much of the super clipping. That said, this is what they did for qualifying, that reduction from 8 megajoules to 7 megajoules. In Japan, they went all the way down to 6. We still saw super clipping. So hopefully this increase in the recharge rate will really help out with that. And like you said too, they've made it now so that for up to what was going to be half of the full calendar, they can do more changes if they want. That's what that 8 to 12 is. So if they go to a race like Monza and they're really, really afraid of the super clipping, they can be like, maybe for qualifying, we'll kick this one down to 6 megajoules or maybe even less. But they're pretty much allowing themselves to make those changes as needed. The boost thing is to make it so you don't have that crazy differential in speeds that can be really dangerous. All of this to me is, I get it. You read through it all and it's like, okay, like I understand what they're doing and how this is supposed to work, but it's pretty complex. And you really understand why so much of this stuff has to be controlled by the car's computer now, because like I don't know how much the
Yeah.
drivers could really handle all this on top of their regular duties, but yeah, like all of the recharging and deployment and all that stuff is pretty much aside from the boost, is all computer controlled, and it really kind of has to be. I don't really at the moment like the complexity of these regulations, and you really see that complexity come out with these changes to the regulations, because they're throwing out all these different numbers, and you have to have people like us on YouTube or podcasts explain to more casual fans like, oh, this is what's actually happening.
I had to read it 3 times
Yeah.
before I finally got it. Like, okay, I'm like, the first time I'm like, he did what? Okay. What is that? Okay, now let's go through it a second time and like, okay, now I see, okay, the same thing they did for Japan where they limited it. Okay, that makes sense. Now you can fill the battery quicker. I think that is going to be something like you could tell from the initial stuff that the FIA had said that they thought that there was some low hanging fruit. Clearly, this was part of that. The 250 to 350 thing was something they had in the bag and were ready for, because that got like pushed through without any sort of resistance from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me wonder why they had the 250 rule in. And the only thing to start with, the only thing I can think of is they were afraid of engines going bang, bang and blowing up. And now that I think that they've seen, for the most part, all of these manufacturers have come in, and with one exception, nobody's really embarrassed themselves in the power unit department. They feel more confident and it's not even from the battery side that Honda's struggling, really. It's the power unit side. The battery is doing what the battery is supposed to do. It's the engine that's rattling in it. So they now have more confidence that, okay, it's the batteries aren't going to die. They're not going to blow up. They're not going to, melt in the back of the car under different conditions. I think so. That one comes through, and that I think you will see an immediate effect for. The 8 megajoules to 7 megajoules, we'll see what that actually looks like. I think the biggest thing you're going to see in lap time. Now, you're still going to see some super clipping. I still think Monza still may be the race that breaks the back of these regulations. But we're going to go, at least initially, Miami looks like it's going to be an energy happy looking circuit. So at least for the debut, Canada may be a different story. Canada's a lot of straights and hairpins. So, and we're going to have topography of different circuits that are we're going to see good and bad things come out of this as we go through. It is a step. It's definitely a step in the right direction. Nothing about this is a step in the wrong direction. The thing that annoys me is, one, why was this so necessary? And two, can we admit that we really kind of went for the impossible dream of this 50-50 split? Because I think if you can get off of that, you can now open yourself up to other things if you need to fix things.
Yeah.
That said, yeah.
I definitely agree that the 50-50 split was kind of a pipe dream that Formula One was really trying to just shove through and make happen for the sake of it's what the manufacturers wanted for road car relevance or whatever the hell. But I think you really got to remember that these are not road cars. This is purely sporting. So,
Yes.
it's okay to burn a little fuel. It's only 22 cars, on average every other week. It's not going to save the planet to make them go to a 50-50 split. Just, stick. I think they really need to kind of stick more to the net zero emissions
Carbon
thing,
emissions. That I'm
the
fine with.
the fully sustainable fuel and all that stuff. I think that's kind of the direction that really Formula One should take that more. And I could go on forever about
Yeah.
how I think the rules should be, how they should have gone, but for now, yeah, they're kind of stuck with what they've created. But if they can, at some point, maybe next year, maybe they play around with this. Yeah, try to make the power output from the internal combustion side a little more, and maybe make the battery a little less. Maybe make it closer to like a I don't know a 65-35 or something like that. Might actually make it so that these work more how they were intended to work.
Right. I mean, the bottom line is it shouldn't become a mode issue or a software issue as to who's doing better. It should be in the driver, and there is the whole thing that the driver needs to do the car unaided, and now you've forced the computer to have to do a lot of this because the driver
Mm-hmm.
you physically couldn't do it. I don't think it's possible to manage some of the mapping that's going on here. My prediction for what's going to happen, I think we're going to get through the rest of the season kind of on this, and everyone's going to swallow really hard. And then you're going to see, I think what comes first is a bigger battery, because I think that's the thing that's right now the limiting factor of all this. And if the bigger battery doesn't fix it, that's when you're going to get your clamoring for sustainable fuels and a different engine. And Mohammed Ben Sulayem is just kind of sitting, waiting in the wings to start that campaigning. And we know how good of a campaigner he tends to be. He's already been out there saying it. So I got a funny feeling we're going to get through our 3 years with this rule set, but I think it's going to be in a different form. But we got to get through the rest of this season first. You can't change the hardware that's already been built. This is probably as much as you're going to get. So we're going to see what it does. Let's hope it makes qualifying more the spectacle we remember and we love. And we hope that the drivers react a little bit more favorably, because I think on the chassis side changes have worked. We've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen cars be able to sit in the half a second for 20, 30 laps, and the tires aren't falling off. Like, it's not this massive thing like, oh, well, he cooked his tires. You don't have that anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
those are good things. We just got to get the power units to get there, but it's a step. All right, last story before we hop into our Grand Prix weekend proper. We expect lots of updates and special liveries to hit. McLaren has said that they are bringing a, quote, entirely new car between Miami and Canada. Red Bull, I saw this animation earlier today, are bringing their idea of the Macarena-style rear wing to this race to at least test it. Whether or not they will run it is another story. Ferrari have had it, they've tested it, but they haven't ran it either, to counter the Ferrari straight line speed thing that we think that the Macarena wing can bring. I've not seen any of the McLaren upgrades. I don't know what those are going to entail. I'm going to have to wait until I get the show and tell report come Friday morning. I will be looking for Twitter for that. But yeah, I think we're going to see lots of updates and a lot of liveries. And I've seen Racing Bulls has a different livery. Cadillac will have a different livery. And oh yeah, Colton Herta will be in FP1 this weekend as
Yeah, that's
well, I
pretty cool.
think. So all sorts of stuff happening over the Miami weekend. So
I'm
things
definitely
to look out
excited for all the upgrades that we're expecting to see. I think this race and the next race ought to be pretty interesting because, this race we've had all this time for the teams to, sort through what type of upgrades they want to make on the, everything but the engine side, I guess I should say. And then after this race is when we're supposed to have our assessment of the engines and, pretty much decide which engine suppliers are going to be able to do upgrades to their engines. And I'm sure anyone who's
it's that
expecting
weird it's that weird acronym I can't remember. It's like AYOODO or something.
yeah, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head either, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the suppliers probably have a pretty good idea if they're going to be eligible for upgrades or not.
Well, Honda's definitely getting one. Everyone's just seemingly agreed Honda should get one.
Yes, Honda's
It's
going to get one.
does
Audi's
Ferrari
probably
get
going to get
one
one.
is the question.
But I mean, even if Ferrari ends up not being eligible, I'm sure they've got some upgrade prepped. I'm sure a lot of these teams have, prepared upgrades for their engines in case that they are eligible. And we'll probably see that come in the next race because that's 3 weeks away. So probably gives teams enough time to start preparing some stuff for that. But yeah, we'll definitely get a lot of like chassis side, deployment side upgrades from this race.
Yes, I am hoping that I don't know if he will be there, but I'm hoping Ted Kravitz will be there walking up and down the pit lane because he describes Formula One updates better than anybody I've ever seen there. So I hope he's there. Sometimes he's not always he likes to be in the US for races, but I don't know if he'll be there, but I'm hoping he's there on the Sky coverage for sure. All right. So we are now caught up. We are rebooted. Formula One is now officially back. We are going to take a very quick break. We will re-rack. We're going to come back. We're going to get into our GP proper. We'll tell you about where we are racing this weekend. That will be the Miami International Autodrome. We will talk a little bit about the weather. It might be a little bit scary on Sunday if the prelim forecast is to be believed. We've seen downpours in Miami before. The initial forecast doesn't look exactly all that great. So anyway,
Does
we'll
not
come back.
want to see a wet race out of these wrecks.
What may save us is the time of the race. We will also talk about that as well and kind of will give you a refresher into the ultimate Miami weather pattern in general. So come on back. You will not want to miss it. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about our predictions. This is brand new, refined rule set. Talk about throwing darts at a dartboard. I have no idea what's supposed to happen this weekend. Well, that's kind of going to be part of the fun. We're going to take our shot at it. So come on back. You will not want to miss the fun there.
You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back on in. This is season 8, episode 7 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2026 Miami GP preview show. We've got Andy. I'm along with Cody tonight. F1 is back. So are we. And we did just try to catch you up on all the news. We neglected one story, and I didn't want to put it in right now before we actually get into our Miami GP track facts. Turkey will be back on the calendar next year. It's a circuit that has gone. You want to talk about a metamorphosis. It started out as a Herman Tilke circuit. It then turned into a car park and was abandoned for years. COVID happened. The Turkish government scrapes it off, resurfaces it with the surface that nobody likes. Then it rains. We had the most slippy race ever with Lance Stroll on the pole and Lewis Hamilton getting his 7th world championship in a venue that nobody saw coming when the calendar started. It's a nice circuit. I actually really like it. There's Coda corners that are patterned after the Turkish circuit. So it's going to be good to see it back. I'm excited for it next year.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to it. It's a, let's put it this way, it is a real purpose-built track.
Yep.
That's returning to the calendar. So I really can't complain about that. Got to balance out all those street circuits that have been coming in.
Yes, that's right. We have to deal with Madrid later on this year. We haven't even reached that one. But anyway, speaking of street tracks, they technically call the Miami Autodrome a street track, even though it is really more of a parking lot, but street track as it is. But anyway, that's where we are racing. That's where F1 gets its reboot. Cody, tell us about the Miami International Autodrome.
Yes, we call it the Miami International Autodrome because parking lot circuit just doesn't have the same ring to it. The Miami International Autodrome is located in Miami Gardens in the United States of America. Number of laps for the Grand Prix is 57, and the length of the circuit is 5.412 kilometers. That's 3.362 miles, and it consists of 19 turns. The tire selection from Pirelli for this race is going to be the C3 hard, C4 for medium, and C5 for soft compounds, which is softer compounds than last year.
Actually, they're the same ones. Sorry.
Oh, same ones as last year. My bad. And the track characteristics from Pirelli are a 3 out of 5 for traction, 3 out of 5 for braking, a 3 out of 5 for tire stress, 3 out of 5 for lateral load, 5 out of 5 for track evolution, 4 out of 5 for asphalt grip, and a 3 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion. The qualifying lap record here was set by Max Verstappen last year, 2025, and he did that with a 1 minute 26.204 seconds, while the race lap record was also set by Max Verstappen, but a couple years prior, 2023, he did that with a 1 minute 29.708 seconds. We haven't had a whole ton of races here in Miami. Looks like Max Verstappen is the only repeat winner here, so he has the most wins with 2. And then next place is a tie between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri with 1 win apiece. And however, most constructor wins here. Since Norris and Piastri both race for McLaren, it is a tie between Red Bull and McLaren with 2 wins apiece. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right. Well, F1, or FOM, likes to call it a street track spectacular, even though it's really a parking lot. With the Hard Rock Stadium as its epicenter, the 5.41 kilometer layout features 19 corners, 3 long straights, and top speeds of over 350 kilometers an hour. There are some elevation changes too. The main one found between turns 13 and 16, with the track heading over an exit ramp or under an exit ramp and under various flyovers across the uneven ground. The turn 14/15 chicane, meanwhile, has an uphill approach with a crest in the middle and then drops down on exit. As for the weather, and remember, we have 2 things going on that we normally don't have. We have F2 in America for the first time. Hello, how you doing? And we also have a sprint weekend, so I'm going to give you the weather for all 3 days. Friday and Saturday look to be just one word: hot. Mostly sunny on Friday, a high of 89 degrees Fahrenheit, so that is very toasty and a lot warmer than what we've seen so far this season. Winds out of the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour and 8% chance of rain on the day. For Saturday, again, mostly sunny skies. This is for your sprint and your main qualifying. High of 91. So that's very warm, very toasty indeed. Winds again out of the south, 10 to 20 miles per hour, a 6% chance of rain. However, on Sunday, and I have looked across different apps to find this, they are all calling for rain. It is going to rain somewhere in Miami on Sunday. Thunderstorms, likely a high of only 82. So the front will come through and change the wind. The winds will curl around from the north and the northwest at 10 to 15. Chance of rain is 90%. Locally heavy rainfall possible. It looks like the big concern is not necessarily, 1, it's the rain, but 2, it's the lightning that goes along with it. We are in the United States. The United States has very strict rules about rain or about lightning. If lightning is anywhere within a 5-mile radius of the circuit, the grandstands have to get cleared and there is no track running whatsoever. And they maintain that for 30 minutes after the last lightning strike that was within that boundary. If anything comes into that clock gets reset. So if it is just a thunderstorm, we could definitely see some delays to the schedule, some delays to the F2 running, any of the support races that are going on. So be prepared for some flexibility and from some standing around time over the course of this weekend. So we'll give you the times of the sessions a little bit later, but schedule some extra time just in case as we head through this week, especially on Sunday. All right. So we will take our shot at what we think is actually going to happen in the race. We will start, as we are always apt to do, with our qualifying pole sitter. I had to remind myself, that's right, Kimi Antonelli is leading the freaking championship. I got to completely restart. It's not all George Russell. Kimi Antonelli has been here, and he's been playing well. So who do we have? Last year was Max Verstappen. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of that this time through, unfortunately, given where Red Bull at. But they're bringing a new car. Maybe we see something outstanding. But Cody, what do you have?
For qualifying pole sitter, since we really have no idea, once again, what these cars are going to do, following all the upgrades and changes to the rules, I'm going to just stick with what we already know so far. That is that Mercedes is good. They're really, really good. I think that even with other cars bringing upgrades, they're going to bring their own upgrades, and they're going to probably still be a little bit clear of the field. And yeah, Kimi Antonelli has momentum on his side. So I'm going to go with Kimi Antonelli starting pole here.
All right, very good. I'm going to go out on a limb. I have faith in the McLaren upgrade machine. They have, for the last 3 iterations, done really well at bringing upgrades to their car. They are doing it again here. This was always the plan. They've had extra time to develop this. I don't know what else they're going to bring forward. Like I said, I'm going to geek out at that like show and tell report come Friday as I find out all the little new bits and bobs that are going to be on my favorite car. That said, I have to pick which driver I think would do better. And so far this season, that's been Oscar Piastri without a doubt. So if there is a challenger to the Mercedes lockout, which has been the case in all 3 rounds so far, it is Oscar Piastri. I think he's going to probably help. It's a stretch. I would totally realize this, but I think he gets it done in a bit of a shocker, especially given after the sprint. I'm going to say Oscar Piastri take pole here in Miami. All right. So the lap time last year was that track record, 126.204. That was, of course, set by Max Verstappen. What do we think for lap times here? It looks like qualifying is going to be dry, but we know we've got all these reductions to the power in the different ways. What do you think for a lap time? What you got?
So far, I've been underestimating these cars, and I've been predicting slower than they've actually been going. I am going to still stick to about a 3-second slower, though, now that we have these changes to the rules. So I'm going to go with a 1 minute 29.236 seconds, just a little over 3 seconds slower than last year.
All right, very good. I do think that you are going to see slower lap times. I'm totally with you there. I'm a little bit slower actually than you are, because I also think the fact that we've got these high temperatures. This is the first time that the Pirelli tires are really going to get stressed. We've been at 3 rounds, Australia, China, where it's been like in the 60s. This is 30 degrees hotter. So it's definitely going to be the first time we're going to see Pirelli tires, I think, really under stress. I think it's going to lead to slower lap time, more slipping, traditional slipping that we're used to seeing when the tires go off. So a 129.547 is what I got for a lap time here. All right, so turning to the race on Sunday, the big prize. Last year's winner was Oscar Piastri in probably his most dominant win of the season. Second place was Lando Norris. I would say if this was the McLaren sweet spot for that car last year, man, it was Miami. They were clearly the best all the way around on race pace last year. And George Russell came home in P3 as well to round out podium. Do we see a repeat of something like that this year? Cody, what is your thought on the race on Sunday?
I do think we're going to see Mercedes and McLaren there again. I do, until further notice, still predict that Mercedes is going to have that edge. McLaren and Oscar Piastri in particular did get significantly closer after Japan or during Japan, but we'll have to see how they do this weekend. So I've still got Kimi Antonelli. For the moment, I've got him converting pole into win. The weather really might throw a wrench into that, but I'm going to stick to my guts here. Stick to my guns, stick to my guts. I'm not really sure what the actual
You're sticking to what brought you here.
I've got Antonelli taking the win. I've got George Russell P2, and I've got Oscar Piastri P3.
All right. Well, after I read the weather forecast, I kind of had a second thought, and I'm like, you know what? This is where drivers with experience matters. And we've seen, I am nothing but complimentary of the effort that Kimi Antonelli has done so far. He is fast. That is proven. That's a fact. But in the rain, in these cars is a whole different beast. And I think then you have to give it a little bit more to those with a little bit more experience. And again, if I'm buying all of the McLaren upgrade sandwich and I'm eating that whole thing, I got to go with Oscar Piastri to convert this into a win. It's going to be a fight. if it is rain, if it is wet, it's going to be a fight. It is going to be tense. It's going to be crazy. There's going to be drivers spinning all over the place. There's going to be all these upgraded cars. And then I think we're going to see some wreckers coming out and some
Not
safety
only that,
cars.
not only do you have all of that with the new regs and car upgrades and first wet weather and all that, but then you're also going to see the first iteration or the first execution of the wet weather rules for these
Yes.
cars, where I seem to believe, I'm trying to remember.
No more active arrow. The active arrow basically goes away.
Well, I think they've got like some kind of like partial active arrow they can do, though, if it's not incredibly wet, where only the back wing opens and all that stuff. So yeah, you're gonna see all kinds of really weird things on Sunday, I'm sure.
Yeah, break out the rule book come Sunday, especially if we have delays, because we may all need to refresh ourselves on what we're actually going to see. I will do my best, at least over the course of Saturday and Sunday, to keep social media going with what I know when I know it type of thing. But that all said, I got to pick a race result. I think Oscar Piastri will win in a slobber knocker of a race. I've got Piastri. I do have George Russell because he is by far the most experienced driver. I think he will come through and be a problem for sure. And Lando Norris also goes pretty well in the wet. So yeah, I'm being a bit of a homer here. I get that. I think I've got data to back me up though. So I'm going to say Piastri, Russell, Norris. The Ferrari's not that far behind as well. All right, so we will transition into our fastest lap, and the driver, the 2025 fastest lap, was Lando Norris, setting a 129.746 in dry conditions. Given, I think we both have some accommodations for wet weather here. Cody, what you got for a fast lap time?
Based on the prediction of potential heavy rainfall, I think this is going to be quite the messy race. So I'm more than anything, I'm just trying to go a lot slower than last year, based on slower cars, slower regs now, and way worse weather. So I'm going all the way down to 1 minute 35.684 seconds, and I've got Charles Leclerc doing it.
All right, very good. While I do think that there is more than a chance that we are going to see heavy pours and heavy downpours and all that other good stuff, the one thing that the Miami circuit has going for it is it will dry out very quickly. If the spigot shuts off and if the sun breaks, that thing will dry up, and it will dry up fast. We saw even last year for the sprint, Leclerc had that awful wreck going out on the recon lap and just torrentially rainy conditions. But by the time the sprint started a half an hour later, we were talking about slick tires because it dries that damn fast. So I do think we're going to see the transition from maybe full wets all the way to slicks at some point. So I've got Antonelli setting the fastest lap. I think he will still be competitive. With a 131, I'm going a little bit fast. I'm kind of in the middle zone. I'm hedging my bet here. I totally get that. 131.587. All right. So our next category is bonus picks. And for this round, I just went with multiples of 5. We'll pick P5, P10, and P15. So a good smattering across the grid. Cody, what you got?
Well, I'm being a little depressing, I guess, with my bonus picks here, because in fifth place, I've got Lando Norris, which I think is an appropriate place to put him, which is, a little sad, considering he's the defending champ. I wish he was getting along with these regs a little better. Maybe he'll surprise me, but that's where I've got him slotted in. I did put Max Verstappen in for 10th place. Ooh. I'm hoping to God that the rain we're expecting kind of equalizes the field a little bit, and maybe he can actually pull something out of his ass. But I'm not too optimistic, so I've got him down in 10th. And then I've got Carlos Sainz in 15th place, because that Williams is just not as good as we were all hoping it was going to be for the season.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So for P5, like I said, I did have the Ferraris right on the heels of the podium. I do think it will be a top 5, top 6 group that will establish, and then there will be kind of the rest. I still think that will be the case. So I've got Lewis Hamilton coming home near the front of that, or in part of that group for sure, but coming home P5. I've got for P10, I think this is where we see kind of a Pierre Gasly, Mercedes engine, good, but not great. Okay, that's where I've kind of got him slotted in for here. P15, I don't want to pick on the guy. I mean, he just did his show run in Buenos Aires and was quite good at that. But Franco Calapinto needs to show better. And until he kind of does, I'm going to kind of have him down here, at least in terms of predicting him. So I've got P15 there. All right. So last question. Given that this rain forecast, do we see either a red flag or a rain delay on Sunday? Do we all get all dressed up and then have to sit and see the message, race start will be delayed 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later, another 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later, half an hour, and then before you know it, an hour is gone by? Do we see any type of that delay happen? Either a red flag, and it doesn't necessarily be for wet. It can just be a regular red flag if we have one. Red flag or a delay to the proceedings on Sunday. Cody, what's your thought here?
I do think we're going to see some kind of red flag or delay. Now, based on what you were telling me about that the lightning is predicted to maybe come later, I think they're going to try to get the race started on time if there's no lightning going on at that time.
Yeah.
But also with how much rain they're saying to expect and the potential for that lightning to come later, I do think we'll see a red flag during the race, either from wreck or rain or lightning.
All right, fair enough. I'm with you. I have a funny feeling we're going to be getting our rule book and doing that, get your deck of cards ready to go and play some solitaire while we're waiting for the race to start.
Okay.
It's going to be a very interesting pre-race. I will be tuning in even to see the drivers' parade. And what I'm really looking for is not even what the drivers are saying. What the hell does the track look like? Because that's kind of the first indication with live cameras that you're going to see it. I will try to watch F2 if I can to try to get a read on that as well. But yeah, I think just given this forecast, given the fact that it's probably going to be one of these quick hitting showers and then maybe a stop, I think we'll get a delay. I do think we'll get the race in. At least I'm hopeful for that. I'm praying to God we don't have a repeat of Spa or something like that. I mean, we will get some points awarded regardless because we do have the sprint weekend and that will be dry. But I'm hoping that that's not where we end up, because there really isn't any way to, you can't go back. They can move it forward. You may see something like that. So, I mean, like I said, if you are watching your schedules, watch social media out there for announcements. This may be one of those dynamic things where things may have to change, given what, just to try to get this thing in. All right. So when and where are we scheduled to watch our F1 this weekend? Of course, if you are in the United States, F1 TV Pro or Apple TV are your ways to do that. I did also see, I don't know if it starts this weekend, but apparently on Apple TV, there's going to be some sort of a pre-show with Nico Rosberg and it was a W Series driver who was going to be there. And then there was some influencers, names I didn't know. But anyway, I just saw a thing on that earlier this week. So you can keep your eyes out for that. You can always get the F1 TV traditional coverage like we're always used to. If you like Sky coverage in the US, there's a button on F1 TV to get you for that. You can also do Apple TV. You can actually scroll down all the way to the bottom of the F1 menu. You will find your Sky Sports feed, and it actually works. And they actually do it a little bit better than ESPN actually used to do. So I was actually impressed by that. So that's probably how I will consume it. But FP1 kicks off 12 p.m. Eastern time, sprint qualifying Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So right as you're finishing your work day in the U.S., turn on the F1 and find out our first new pecking order on Friday. Saturday, the sprint kicks off 12 o'clock Eastern, high noon and hot temps on the docket for Saturday. Qualifying kicks off at 4 p.m. Eastern later on in the day. And the race itself also kicks off 4 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. That is when it is scheduled to start. Again, given this forecast, watch out for changes to the schedule. They may just nix the F2 race, move everything up. They may need to look at weather windows and stuff like that. The IndyCar does this a lot. I don't know that F1 is going to have to do it, but we are in the U.S. It is kind of going to be a changing weather situation. We have to keep our eyes on the sky for sure. All right. Well, we are back up and running, man. We will be back on Sunday to talk about whatever the hell happens, whether we see one lap or whether we see the entire race distance. We will do our best to try to recap on Sunday night. Cody, any final thoughts before we hop into our weekend?
If it's one lap, it's going to be a very short and disappointing podcast. But yep, we will be here to talk about it. I really hope we get at least a little bit more than that so that we actually get to see some action. It's been 5 weeks. It's way too long. I've been having a hankering here, and I'm not going to be able to watch the next few races, most likely, at least not live. So yeah, I gotta get it in while I can.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, I'm just hoping that, again, keep your eye out for the schedule, but I am excited. I want to see, believe it or not, I don't always say FP1 is appointment television. FP1 is probably appointment television because that's really when you're first going to see it's almost like testing all over again, where it's like, ooh, what are they doing? And what are these guys doing? And what tires are those guys running? But anyway, we will be back on Sunday to recap whatever happens, good, bad, or hopefully not ugly. So yeah, we'll be back then. Until then, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your F1. Nice to be back at it. And until then, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at outlapf1 podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.